Title: The Endless Echoes. The rain fell in heavy sheets as the small town of Eldridge was draped in a blanket of gray. It was the last day of summer, and 16-year-old Mia Parker was determined to make it memorable. As she stepped out of her house, she felt a familiar buzz of excitement tinged with an undercurrent of dread. Summer meant freedom, but school loomed just around the corner, a thought that made her shudder. Mia met her best friend, Sara, under the old oak tree that stood at the edge of Miller's Woods. They had spoken about exploring the woods for weeks, but now, standing in the late afternoon rain, it felt like a dare they were both hesitant to accept. However, adventure thrived against the backdrop of their uncertainties. Together, they grinned, brushed aside thoughts of lurking shadows, and set off down a narrow, muddy path. They laughed and raced through the trees, their spirits high until they stumbled upon a dilapidated cabin hidden in the thicket. The rotting wood slanted in odd angles, overtaken by wild vines that coiled like fingers reaching for the sky. A chill wind whispered through the branches, sending a shiver down Mia's spine. "Let's check it out," Sara said, her eyes sparkling with a mix of mischief and curiosity. Inside, the air was musty, with the faint odor of decay. Dust motes floated lazily in the dim light that filtered through cracked windows. The girls explored, opening creaky doors and peering into cobweb-filled corners. It felt like stepping into a forgotten world. In the central room, they found an old grandfather clock, its face cracked and hands frozen in time. "It's creepy," Mia said, her voice echoing softly. "Yeah, but there's something intriguing about it," Sara replied, moving closer. As Sara reached out to touch the clock, a deafening chime echoed through the cabin, vibrating through the very air around them. It was a sound unlike any they had heard before, deep, sonorous, and layered, as if it came from somewhere far away. Suddenly, the world shifted. Mia blinked and felt a strange tug at the back of her mind, the same moment repeating itself, like a record skipping. "Sara, did you hear that?" "What?" Sara said, furrowing her brow. "What are you talking about?" Before Mia could say anything else, the chimes rang out again, and the world twisted. The air was thick, electric. Colors faded and morphed, and just like that, they found themselves outside the cabin, the clouds heavy above. "Did we just? Come on, let's see if we can get inside again," Sara interrupted, pulling Mia along. They hurried back to the door, hearts pounding with a heady mix of fear and adrenaline. Once inside, the clock's chimes rang out once more, resonating in their chests. The room shifted, and before they could comprehend what was happening, they stood under the oak tree again, backpacks still slung over their shoulders. No rain. The warm sunlight bathed them in golden light. "What the?" Mia gasped, feeling sick. "This can't be real. It has to be a trick of the light or something," Sara suggested weakly, glancing around as if seeking an answer in the rustling leaves. But something deep within Mia told her it was more than that. An inkling of horror began to bloom in her mind. They wouldn't return to the world they belonged in until the mystery of that clock was unraveled. It felt like fate, like a sinister game they had inadvertently joined. The girls dove back into the woods, retracing their steps, until they reached the cabin again. The door creaked open easily this time. They stepped inside, hearts racing, only to find the clock hadn't changed, still frozen in time. It was as if they were trapped in the echo of a dream, the same moments stretching endlessly, stalling just long enough for fear to seep in. After countless loops through the day, every attempt to escape the cabin grew increasingly unsettling. Each repetition chipped away at their courage, and the whispering wind began to sound more like tortured souls, lost, crying out for liberation. "Maybe we need to turn the clock?" Mia suggested on what felt like the 100th time they'd stood before its stagnant face. "Are you crazy?" Sara replied, her voice tinged with panic. "What if we trigger something worse? I don't know how much worse it can get." Finally, they approached the clock together. With trembling hands, they turned the frozen hands clockwise, and the room quaked. The chimes resonated, a cacophonous roar, and it felt as if reality itself buckled around them. Then silence. For the first time, the clock's face shimmered, then transmuted into a kaleidoscope of colors. They found themselves in the woods again, but it felt different, not just a repeat, but a fresh beginning. The shadows no longer whispered, instead, they beckoned. Releasing any remnants of fear, the girls ran. They didn't look back until they reached town, breathless with hope. The day continued. The sky gleamed blue and the sun shined above. They were free. But as they walked to school the following Monday, something nagged at Mia. Glancing at her friend, she asked, "What if it was just a dream?" Sara's eyes blinked wide, haunted. "What if we never left that cabin?" They exchanged a knowing look, the weight of the world hanging between them as the whispers of the woods lingered in their hearts. That night, as Mia lay in bed, she swore she heard a clock in the distance, ticking steadily against the silence. And she realized with a sinking dread that some loops never ended. They merely waited for the right moment to return.